so that we have this on file. Okay, we have a poll that I'd like to launch. So hopefully you can see this. I'm really interested to know that those of you who are on the call, how long you have been in the field of social work. So if you could just take a few minutes and just answer how many years you have been in the field of social work. So post-grad social work, I guess is what I should say more specifically. Okay, so we're still waiting on a few more people. We'll wait about 15 more seconds to give everybody an opportunity to answer. Okay, excellent. So it looks like from our polling, thank you so much for everybody that participated in that, 52% of the people on this call are new to the field. So have been in the field 0 to 3 years. We do have 19% of us have been in the field for 10 to 15 years. But the majority of this call are people who are brand new to the field of social work. And so that's really important. And that's one of the reasons why we felt like this was a need to have this conversation, because what the research will say is that the average length of a social work career is just 8 years. And so if you're looking at other helping professions, nurses are 16 years, doctors are 25 years, 8 years is not very long. And so we'd love to start having these conversations with young professionals new to the field to get an idea of what things need to be in place in order to provide more support for them so that we can have them last in the field. And just a word before I turn it over to our amazing moderator for this evening. You know, being young, gifted, and Black is both a blessing and a challenge, because when you are talented and when you are young and when you have lots of skills, there will be multiple people pulling on you to do a myriad of different things. And so it's really important, and I would caution all of our professionals on the call and all of our students who will become professionals to really make sure that you have a vision and a plan and understand what it is that you want to do in social work. Social work is big. There's so much that you can do with this degree. So get yourself connected to a mentor, get yourself connected to, you know, a goal setting retreat or a vision board retreat. I know lots of people do that at the beginning of the year. Some people do that in the middle of the year, but make sure you're spending time reflecting on what it is you want to do with your degree and how you want to make a difference. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are so very excited to have you with us and to listen to our panelists. Adriana Carter is going to be our panel moderator this evening. Adriana is also a young professional. She is 2 years post-grad. She was our first CBSW president, student president at the University of Tennessee College of Social Work, where she received her master's degree. And she also serves as the vice chair of the CBSW board. And so she's currently working as a social worker at Oasis Center, but I think that her perspective as a moderator for our event tonight is so critical and so important. So we want you guys to be interactive. You know, we're not in person, but we are virtual. So use the chat function, use your reactions, ask questions in the chat. I will be monitoring that. So please make sure if you have any questions at all that you just drop it in the chat. And so now, without further ado, I will hand it over to Adriana.
Thank you, Carmen. Hi, everyone. I am super excited to be here, to be with you, to be moderating this panel today. This is a very important topic, especially to me as I am navigating a hard season of trying to figure out what's next as a young professional, as a young Black social worker who's got a lot of talent and has no idea where to go next. So I'm excited to be here You will hear from 4 amazing young women, young Black social workers. I'm excited for y'all to hear from them. Um, they are a wealth of knowledge, even as young professionals, young social workers. So please sit back, relax. You'll hear their stories. And we want you to engage. Please use the chat, say amens, throw them in the chat, use your reactions. Like, I'm all about that virtual affirmation because I can't get that physical affirmation of the mm-hms and all of that. Please use those things. And to keep this space sacred, we ask that you keep your mics on mute while these young women and I am speaking to you and engaging with you. Again, we are so glad you're here. So we will start with our 4 panelists. They will share, they'll introduce themselves, they'll share their stories with us, their professional stories, how they became social workers, why they became social workers. And then we'll move into what I think is the most important part of the night, is the Q&A portion, where we'll get to engage with them at a deeper level on things that you've heard. So keep your questions in mind. Again, throw your questions in the chat, throw your commentary in the chat. Carmen will be monitoring the chat, and I will, she'll field those questions to me, and I will pose them to our panelists. Does that sound great? Let's practice some virtual affirmation. Throw up those hearts, thumbs, celebrations in the chat. Yes, Katie Vite, I love to see it. Raising the roof. Okay, we will first hear from Miss Tony, and then Sharonda, Esperance, and Grayson, and then we'll move into our Q&A. I'm excited. Miss Tony, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Adriana. That was an amazing introduction, and so perfectly said. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and so I want to thank Carmen, for everything you do and just really organizing this and putting this together, and anybody involved. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to go ahead and jump into my spiel. So my name is Tony Williams, and I am a mental health social worker at the North Little Rock VA Medical Center. There's like 3 different names. So you have Central Arkansas Veterans Healthcare Center, and then you have Eugene J. Tumlin VA Hospital, which is the actual hospital I work at, and then we just call it North Little Rock VA Medical Center. So there's all these different names, but I work on the PCT clinical team, which stands for the PTSD clinical team, which is essentially just the outpatient PTSD. You can go ahead. All right, so just a little background information. I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where I graduated high school from Memphis Central. At that time, I didn't really know what was next for me. My mom, really was pushing for me to join the military straight out of high school. And I was like, I really want to go to college. So I decided to go to college, and I actually had plans of joining the Air Force. And so I did the ROTC while in college. And the whole idea behind that is that I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to help people. And so that was just, what other better way to help people than join the military, help serve our country. Well, things didn't quite work out, and I immediately switched my major to social work. My mentor, my aunt at the time, was a social worker. Hell stay, I see somebody in the chat box. And so, I immediately changed my major to social work, and I knew that's exactly where I belong. So I graduated from Mississippi State in 2018, and I was applying to, I knew I need to go get my master's. So I just was applying to different schools. I got into UT and I got into Alabama. Decided to go to UT just because it was closer to home, wanted to get back towards home. And I don't know, I think it was just something that kind of spoke to me. And so then I started at UT. Seemed like it went by really fast. I think my field, like over the summer, and I think anybody who does advanced standing, it feels like you can't even remember what happened because it goes by so fast. but I did my internship at Memphis VA. As you can see on the picture, you'll see, I think it was like my second month at Memphis VA, and then just some of my pictures from my master's program there. And so it was all a really great experience, but I still feel like it went by extremely fast. So that's a little bit about my education. After I graduated from UT and completed the internship, I almost, I started studying for my LMSW. I think I was still in school when I started studying for my LMSW because I knew I needed to go ahead and take it. At that time, I had been applying for these fellowship opportunities that I learned about from my field instructor. I didn't really know much about fellowships. I didn't even know social work had fellowships to offer, but I knew that I wanted to keep working within the VA. I enjoyed the work. And so I applied to every fellowship that there was, and I interviewed for about 4 or 5, and I got accepted into the one in Little Rock. At the time, I was working at MRC, which is Memphis Recovery Center. And so I finished working there until it was time to go to Little Rock and start my fellowship. The fellowship went by extremely fast. If you look at the picture there, that's my fellowship class. It was 3 social workers, a psychologist, and an occupational therapist. So we were interdisciplinary. So it was really cool to get to know them. But the quote there talks about taking risks because it really was a risk. Most people graduating are looking for jobs. They're not really looking for fellowships because it's, a lot less pay, and it's kind of like a step up from an internship. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I knew I wanted to further my training. And then after the fellowship, I got hired on at North Little Rock VA, which was a huge blessing. And I took a huge risk for that. So that was a little bit about my journey and kind of how I ended up where I am today. And so now I work as a mental health therapist. I'm kind of a hybrid in the clinic that I work in because I also do case management. They didn't have case management in the clinic before I came. And so I'm actually kind of developing this case management program in the clinic because it's really needed, although we do clinical work, case management is needed. And so moving forward, I want to continue to really expand those clinical skills. And also I am currently in supervision right now. My goal is to have my LCSW by March of next year. The fellowship allowed me to get a bunch of hours. I was pretty much halfway done with my hours when I finished the fellowship. So that was a huge plus. And I just kind of rolled right into keep doing my supervision when I started full time. And then once I get my LC, I'm gonna start looking into private practice. And then on down the line, I really do hope to mentor and supervise. I think, Black supervisors, Black social work supervisors are so important. I have not had a Black supervisor. So that's why I do want to, continue to do that. And I have long-term goals of being in leadership in the VA or, pursuing starting a nonprofit organization. So that is my spiel. Try not to go along, but I feel like I had a lot to say, but that's pretty much my spiel there. Thank you.
You had a lot to say and it was well said.
Thank you so much.
You make me want to take some more risks. I'm ready. I'm ready.
There is a question in the chat. Did you, and this is specific to you, Tony, so we can just go ahead and ask it. Did you have your LMSW before you did your fellowship?
I did. So the fellowship offered a bunch of hours. I mean, they said if you have your LMSW going into the fellowship, you could go ahead and start getting your hours. So my goal was to have it. And so I took it in August. I took it on August the 21st of 2020. and no, August the 21st, was that 22 of 2019. And I started the fellowship in September. And so some people in the fellowship didn't have their LMSW, but some people did. And so some people took it while in the fellowship. So it wasn't a requirement, but it was recommended because you could go ahead and start getting those hours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, Tony. Sharonda, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Adriana. I just want to echo what Tony said and just thank Carmen and Adriana and everyone involved for inviting us today so that we can have this really important conversation. So thank you all. And also, shout out to Tony. We've met. That's us on the picture the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't connect that till now. But, and of course, Adriana, we met too. It was so good to see you. Like, it's just like a reunion. And Gracie, I feel like we met before too, briefly. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. I'm a chatty Cathy. So let me go ahead and get started. So my social work journey, a little bit about myself. I have a yes, sisterhood. Self-care is not selfish. I'm so big on self-care. I can go into the many reasons why, but it's just really important to me. And I think it's so important for all of us social workers, especially Black social workers with the vicarious trauma and all the things that we'll experience in the field, that we just double up on self-care. But all social workers, yes, we need to practice self-care. I love music. I love to laugh. My faith is important to me. I love to travel, and I have a meme there because I am a sucker for memes. Okay, so my social work journey began before I became a social worker. And I just have some like bullet points here, and I'll just I felt like it was important to go over this order so it would make sense. Kind of the same thing as Tony. I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do career-wise when I was in college. So I did not start off as in BSW. And you'll see that when we go on the education slide. But I knew I wanted to help people, but I wasn't really sure. That first point says mentor, needed one, became one. So I had a mentor for a day when I think I was like, I don't know, 11 or something like that. We went to Build-A-Bear together, and she never showed up again. And I was like, where'd she go? So when I went to college, I was in an organization called the Collegiate 100 Black Women. And I became a mentor. And this is really where it began. We mentored to the inner city youth at the Boys and Girls Clubs. We went to their schools, and we just really got on the floor and just, and connected with the community. And I was just like, I don't want this to stop. So I became a mentor, and I think this is where it began. When I graduated, I became an educator. Why? Again, did not know what I wanted to do. I was like, I know I want to work with people that need me, but I don't really know what I want to do. So I was a teacher at a private school, and I taught English, world history, and reading intervention for students with learning differences and special needs. So, and we'll see that on the slide. It goes into detail about the population, but really cool experience. But it's also really hard when you're a social worker at heart, when students are coming to you with suicidal ideation. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure something out here. Then I became an author. I know everything is just like, thank you, Adriana. But yeah, everything is just kind of, there's a journey that leads to social work. And my book, coincidentally, is mental health, self-help, and inspiration. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do still, right? But I knew mental health was important to me, and I wanted to share a little bit about my journey and educate the community. So I wrote a book. Like, I was literally on my planning period writing my book, y'all. And so you can get that on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or my website, ShondaStickers.com. Shameless plug, I might add. And so then I applied to grad school. And it was just, it happened so divinely. It was kind of random. I was like, let me see if I missed the deadline. Thank you, Carmen. I was like, let me see if I missed the deadline. And I was literally a week from the deadline, not kidding. So shout out to my mentors and all my people in my life who got my recommendation letter to me in a week. And I mean, that's why mentorship is important. Like Adriana said, is to have people in your corner. And so I sent everything in like literally the day before, and I got in. Praise the Lord. And so then I became a social worker. All right. So yeah, that's just a little bit of foreshadowing there. Author life. So we don't really have to, I talked about that already, but yeah. It was a short-lived, well, not short-lived. I'm still an author. I still do meet and greets and book signings. But when I went straight into grad school, it kind of like, kind of made it hard. I was trying to do book signings while in grad school and interning. Y'all, self-care got crazy. So can't do it all. Education experience. So I am an alumna of MTSU. Any MTSU people in here? Please say it in the chat because I would love to see that. But yeah, that's my undergrad. Then I went to UTK, as you see there. And I also have my education abroad experience there as well. So if there's any students on here, I really suggest that you do that. Again, y'all, I went over a lot of this in the beginning, but post-undergrad, I was a teacher. I taught English, world history, and reading intervention at a private school. And I did that for like a year. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I was also a preschool and infant room teacher. So the important thing about that is I did that at a public college, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And if anyone on here is a student, if you work at a university, a major university, you'll be able to get your schooling paid for. So that's why I did that. And let's see, my internship, I did CCFT, which is intensive therapy. And then I did that full time. And then I transitioned into an outpatient therapist. So I do mental health therapy. Let's see, I'm trying to read this. For community mental health. And I serve a wide population. My youngest client, I think, is like 6. And my oldest client is like 60. So a really wide population of clients. And let's see, I became a licensed master social worker. I didn't get licensed right away like Tony. That's something I also think is really important, is to go ahead and get that license right away. The reason why is because you're gonna have a waiting period of for them to accept your paperwork, right? And then you're gonna need to study for 3 months. And then you look up and a half a year has passed, right? So that's kind of what happened with me, but it's fine as long as you get there. Let's see. All right, so I put my last note here. The reason why I brought up my book is not just to put in a shameless plug, but I have some entrepreneurial passions, y'all. That's important to me. And so I think it's really cool with our field. What's really cool about our field is you can really do whatever your heart desires. So I'm really interested in private practice. I'm really interested in taking the knowledge that I have and serving the community, but also working for myself possibly one day. So I just did a podcast last week. Let's see. And I have some things, and I'm going to try to link that podcast on my like social media pages. Let's see. Making sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I'm going to try to link that podcast on my social media pages so that y'all can hear that. But yeah, so whatever you want to do, you can do it. And I think hopefully I covered everything. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Rhonda.
Rhonda.
Thank you, Sharonda. Yes. Y'all not sleeping on yourselves, and I appreciate it. Y'all are doing it. I need to get it together, huh? I need to get it together. Come on now. Y'all, I'm inspired. Okay, Miss Esperance, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Esperance Daizeye, and I am a licensed school social worker. Thank you guys for being here. This means a lot because, like everyone has already mentioned, it's important for the culture. So thank you guys again. We can go ahead. So with my social work education, as you can see, I went to Belmont for undergrad. That's where I got my BSW. And then, yes, while I was there, I got my BSW there. I completed my field placements at Catholic Charities in the Refugee Resettlement Department. And then I interned with Community Achieves at a middle school in Antioch. And then I went on to UT Knoxville, Nashville campus, of course. And then while I was there, I interned at Tennessee Voices for Children, and then with MNPS again, with their social work department. And then during that time, I was able to like get a glimpse of school social work at the elementary, middle, and high school level, and I fell in love. So yeah. So with that, my social work journey. As far as my social work journey, although it just started, I just started last year, so I'm still new to this. I've always known what kind of impact I wanted to have on others because of like the positive influence that many individuals had on me growing up. So to give you some background, I'm a first generation immigrant. And I grew up in East Nashville's public housing, and living in that kind of environment, like you're subjected to and forced to like witness a lot of things that are simply just unhealthy and damaging to, just one's mental. And so having to combine that with what was going on at home and then what was taking place every single time I stepped outside, I just know that if it were not for like the guidance, the love, and the safety that other positive adults in my life provided me with, I just know that I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And so that is why I have this quote, become what you needed as a child, because I feel like that's what I'm doing today. I'm not sure where I got that from, but I remember hearing this and it's just stayed with me ever since. And so that's what currently drives me in my role. And so that's why I started my career as a school social worker. I started last October of 2020, 5 months after I graduated, which is a blessing because I was stressed. My biggest fear was like going to school and not getting a job in like my field. And to be able to get that was just a blessing for sure. But yeah, so I started during the middle of a semester, which was crazy. And then COVID, which was insane. And so it came with like a lot of challenges, but I truly love the work that I do and the people that I serve and the people that I get to work alongside. So I'm just grateful and blessed. And I'm currently at Napier Elementary, Rosebank Elementary, and Inglewood. And I just split my time with those schools each week. But yeah, that's what I do.
If I can unmute myself. Okay, hello everybody. I also want to say thank you to all of these beautiful women who came before me, who have shared their testimonies, their stories, and another shout out to Carmen. Although we've done this already, I just have to say thank you for continuing to create spaces for us and by us, and not just spaces, but sacred spaces. We appreciate you for seeing us always. So just had to get that out there. Thank you. So I'm Grayson. I put Grayson Camille Dulaney. Camille is my middle name. And when we start to talk about microaggressions in the fields, I'll get into my name a little bit more. So Grayson Delaney, I have my master's degree in social work. I am not licensed yet, but I'll get to that as well. So my education history, I am from Kingsport, Tennessee, so it's a really small town in East Tennessee. It is basically all white, predominantly white. So I was often the only Black kid in my classes, in any groups I was in, any sports I did, any extracurriculars. I was often the only one. So I had that experience of being isolated, of needing some extra support, needing those community spaces growing up. I had them, but not enough. I also had some mental health struggles, especially in high school. So coming into college, I actually finished high school early, started college a semester early, came to campus at UT, and was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm about to be a whole college student. I'm an adult, I'm 17. So everything was new and great. I started out as a journalism major. And I've always loved people's stories. I've loved knowing what shapes people, what makes each of us who we are. However, I really wanted to be the next Oprah. I will not lie to y'all. I wanted to be Oprah. And I quickly realized that, that is a really specific trajectory that not everyone can get to just by doing a journalism degree. So journalism just did not fit with me. It just did not feel aligned with my core values as I continued into my college career. So about a year and a half into my college career, I switched majors to social work. So I went from journalism to undecided. I took a social justice class and a sociology class. My social justice professor was a social worker. And then around that same time, I also ended up taking Africana studies. So it was just a combination of factors that really shifted the trajectory of my life. As part of my Africana Studies class, we did community service learning or community service learning. I think that's what it's called. So I was at Sarah Moore Green Elementary School in East Knoxville with their YMCA after school program. So I would go like 1 or 2 days a week for 2 hours. I loved those kids so much. That was my first experience working with kids in general. So that was just so fun to me and so new. So I actually started working with that YMCA after school program. And then, like I said, all of that is just kind of what led me into my social work journey. So I graduated in May 2019 with my bachelor's degree. I did my undergrad field placement with Boys and Girls Club Social and Emotional Wellness Initiative. I was the social work intern. How they did it, one social work intern would be at each club, and there were like 10 different clubs in the Tennessee Valley area. So I was the social work intern at Montgomery Village Boys and Girls Club, which is a housing project here in South Knoxville. From that work I did there and in undergrad, I thought, honestly, I don't really know what's next for me. So let me go get my master's degree. And I know that that will be one way to also get my foot in the door later on and just give me a little bit more time to mature and develop in my personhood as well. So I finished my master's degree in May 2020 from UT Knoxville as well. I did the advanced standing program. During that year, I was also co-president of the CBSW, Knoxville campus co-president of CBSW. And I completed my field placement with the University of Tennessee's legal clinic, mostly with the advocacy legal clinic and expungement legal clinics. And I was the first macro student to serve in this placement. So that was really awesome because I kind of got to build the foundation for what social work was gonna look like there. That kind of leads me into my current employment. So upon graduating in May 2020 during a global pandemic, it was a lot it was terrifying, y'all. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was terrifying. Along with just kind of coming into yourself as a 23-year-old, and then graduating and like, who am I? What is this world? You're also in a global pandemic. So Indeed was looking very slim. Glassdoor, all the little job sites were looking very slim. And I really felt passionate about finding a job that was aligned with who I know that I am at my core, with my core values, with my social work values and ethics. So I took a little bit of time and just relaxed and let my brain just turn off, and really spent time investing in self-care and soul care and really learning about myself and continuing to learn about myself. And I really started applying for jobs probably more late June, early July. And so I ended up seeing a job on Indeed that was for a mental health program where you went around to different schools in Knoxville, or not in Knoxville, but all over East Tennessee, and talked with students about mental health. It was part-time, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work because this may not pay the bills by itself. So, but I was like, this sounds really aligned with my values. So I applied. Around that same week, actually, my field instructor during my grad school placement reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm about to step back from my position as executive director at the Justice Initiative. We need a program director. Would you be interested in doing this? It's not going to be completely full-time and it's not salaried, but here it is. And so I was like, oh, okay, wow. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, higher power, whoever, whatever you choose to worship, insert that there. Thank you. So I got those two positions. And to be very honest, we were in the middle of a grant at the Justice Initiative, and I'm the program director of something called a holistic legal incubator. So we train lawyers and social workers to work together utilizing an interdisciplinary holistic approach and client-centered approach to lawyering. And all of our attorneys in the program are also starting their own businesses. So they're learning how to start their own business. A lot of them are just graduating from law school. They are just kind of getting their feet wet in criminal defense practice. We do civil as well, but a lot of them are in criminal defense. So there's a lot of parallels there between the work I did at the legal clinic and then what I'm doing now, which is just feels like divine order to me and feels beautiful to see. But I worked that mental health 101 program throughout the fall and a little bit throughout this past spring. But once our grant got renewed with the incubator at the Justice Initiative, the pace of work just really picked up. And so I will be very honest, once again, I was feeling myself get to the point of burnout, trying to do both of these jobs and just trying to invest in my own personhood as well, and have some semblance of a personal life too. So I decided to take a step back from that mental health job and put in my 2 weeks notice, and the world kept turning and all was well. And I still have a great relationship with the Mental Health Association of East Tennessee. But that's really my work history for now. I did not put this in the work history piece, but I recently became a field instructor for 2 bachelor's social work students. So they are with me this summer. It has been really awesome so far. It is so beautiful to get to facilitate a learning space for other people, especially other young Black social workers, and just to kind of get to see their light bulbs click or just see them connect the dots of their lives or of these theories they're learning has been a really rewarding experience. So when we go to this next slide, now I can tell you about my LMSW exam. So I have not done it yet, but I plan to take those steps before the end of 2021. Like I said, I was so busy during the fall and then for most of this spring, and it just kind of kept falling to the back burner. And then it felt kind of expensive too. So both of those things kind of made me be like, you know, it will get done when it gets done. But I have come to a place where I'm like, okay, we're ready. We can sign up. We can take those steps. I think I've given myself enough no school, no studying, no homework kind of time to be able to get back in that framework now. And then continuing education wise, working in the legal field, working in a forensic setting, and just witnessing how nuanced these systems of oppression truly are has really led me to consider law school at some point down the road, or looking at other ways to be able to utilize my MSSW degree to be able to influence policy. So for an example, we were looking for resources for a client, and we found out that a few of the grant programs for folks experiencing homelessness, they count chronic homelessness from it has to be 1 year. But if you've been incarcerated in any amount of time throughout that year, that 1 year starts over. So being incarcerated counts as being housed under certain policies and programs. And that is just absolutely bonkers to me, along with all the other policies and systems and structures that we all know are not working how they need to be working for equity and liberation for all of us. And then I just plan to continue my education through workshops, trainings, webinars. Social work is so broad and there is so much space for continual learning. And for me, it's really been about identifying those areas I'm interested in and finding ways to learn more about the topic. So although I'm not a micro social worker, some things I'm really interested in right now are somatic abolitionism. Resma Mannequin's framework is really interesting to me. He is an author, he's at LCSW, but I'm really interested in that right now. Like I said, law school potentially down the road, maybe, I don't know, the thought of school sounds awful to me, but the outcome and the end goal would be worth it. So that's where I am, that's who I am right now. And thank you all for listening.
Wow, I'm proud. I'm proud. We can end it right here, right now. Y'all have a good evening. I'm kidding. It's not over with. We are not done yet. I am so proud of y'all. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Y'all are brilliant. Some themes I was writing down, scribbling down over here. And one big theme is y'all are betting on yourselves. You don't stop betting on yourself. You take a risk. You put it out there. You go for it. You do what you need to do to get where you need to get. And I'm floored and I'm honored and proud to know you. So we are going to shift now into our Q&A portion. And everyone who is not on the panel, this is your time to shine with all the questions. Panelists, y'all are in the hot seat. Get ready for these questions. I'm excited about these questions. So panelists, if you have questions, please throw them in the chat. Carmen will spotlight whoever the speaker is. She will also be taking note of your questions and try to get them in order, and she will field them to me. And Carmen, if it is easier for you to just go ahead and ask the questions, please feel free to do that as well. So throw your questions in the chat. We also have questions that attendees submitted prior to when they registered for this. So we have questions stacked up and ready to go. If you don't have any questions, but please utilize this space, utilize this resource, because we are a resource to you, social work, CBSW, Black people, white people, all people. Like, we are a resource to you. Use us right here, right now. And let's jump in. So our first question, what do you wish you would have known before you graduated about your first 2 years in the field? If you need me to repeat, let me know.
Well, I can touch on what I thought I would know going into my first role as a social worker. I thought that, okay, once I'm done with school, I'm going to have all this wealth of knowledge and I'm just going to know what to do. And I graduate and I'm just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And so my biggest thing was that, yes, you have all this schooling, but until you're in it, then you're really never going to know. And so just giving yourself grace and taking that time to just actually go through the motions of everything. And that's just what it's going to have to be. And so not putting too much pressure on yourself, thinking that, oh, you're not as smart as you think you should be or anything like that, because it's going to come eventually. Just wait on it. That's what that's what I would say.
I will second Esperance and say that I had, as I was looking at our questions earlier, I'd kind of written down what you're saying, but almost the inverse of it, that like, no one knows all the answers. There is no rule book. There is no one size fits all way to do life, to do social work, to be. And again, like, no one has all the answers. No one has it all figured out. Everyone is typically doing the best they can with what they know in each moment. And sometimes we don't know things until we know them. And that has been something I have really had to come into a humility about, I think, entering the field as a new social worker, like, got all this knowledge, all this skill, but also real life is a little bit different than a theory. And so really putting that on the ground, putting my feet to the ground, it has been an experience. So I will second that, and make sure you give yourself grace through it all.
Can I jump in here? Oh my goodness, I love that, ladies. And honestly, I think I can think about what I knew, right? I knew I wanted to take my exam for my license right after I graduated, but I didn't. So I beat myself up about that. And so give yourself grace, because you're not always, you might have knowledge of something, but you might not always follow through, or life might happen. I know there's some social workers, they had a baby, and so, then their plans changed. So giving yourself grace, don't beat yourself up.
I would say, the endless possibilities, I think that we all know that social work is really broad, but I don't think I learned enough about how many things that I could do, or that we can do as social workers. I think a few months back, I was looking into traveling social work, but just thinking about all the different possibilities. And I think sometimes we can kind of box ourselves into like, this is what we want to do, this is our goal, not realizing how much more is actually out there, and being able to expand on our skills. And not only that, use them in different areas, be able to really, really get creative, with our skills and how we choose to use them, rather than just getting so stuck into this is what I want to do and this is what I am going to do. Because it's full of different possibilities. And so I'm always looking at different ways I can utilize my skills as a social worker and what I've learned thus far.
I wish I would have known that pay wouldn't be what it's supposed to be, and that I would have to hustle and have 6-7 jobs to make ends meet as a social worker. I wish somebody would have told me that, and I would have been better prepared to not be a hustler. It's exhausting, but thank y'all. And I hope y'all are taking notes. People, please take notes. They're dropping some gems. Question 2, as a Black social worker, have you encountered any microaggressions or racism in the workplace? And if so, how did you handle it?
I would love to start first on this one.
You go ahead, Tony. Tell us. Teach us.
I was just speaking with Carmen a while back, but working for the government and working in the VA system, things are very political. I am one of 2 African-American women in my clinic. And so a lot of times it can feel as though maybe I am having to work harder. Maybe I am having to meet certain requirements, or being asked to do certain things. And so I've really had to become a strong as far as thinking about being really really intentional about the work that I'm doing, because you can get put in positions where you're being told to do certain things. And if you were just naive or ignorant to what you should be doing, you'll just be doing these things, or you'll just be going along with it. But I try to educate myself on policy. I try to educate myself on requirements. And most importantly, within my team, I try to clarify my role with this case management position. It's new to the clinic, and so I have a lot of autonomy. But it's easy for people to say, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be doing this, when actually I'm developing this role myself. And so I have experienced, what I would say many microaggressions as a fellow and as an employee and as a provider during this pandemic, during George Floyd's trial. Certain emails were sent out addressing the case inappropriately. Even some people that I met with for therapy, a lot of opinions would get brought up regarding the presidential race. And so I really have had to make sure I am in therapist mode, I am social worker mode, but I'm still being myself. I am still having my dignity. And so I just handle it in a way that I continue to educate myself. I'm transparent, and, I try to continue to be me and who I am. I think I see something in the, do you have any support while trying to establish? I do. I did mention there's another African-American woman on my team. I've always been really close with her and talking with her about some of the things that I'm dealing with, because I can relate to her more. As a fellow, I did not have a Black supervisor. When I started, I did not have a Black supervisor, and then I switched supervisors again. So I've had I've actually had 4 supervisors, because I was on different rotations as a fellow. So you kind of switch back and forth different rotations, but I haven't had a Black supervisor. But I do have my mentor, who also works within the VA system, who deals with her own struggles. And it's really helpful to have that support and to reach out and just talk to somebody about what you're going through, because you don't want to kind of get drowned in that alone. And you also don't want to let it get you down as far as your work, because then it starts to affect your passion and you start to kind of forget why you even started to do it. And so I always try to keep my eye on why I started this in the first place. And my African-American veterans really do give me an extra push. Working with them, a lot of the struggles they deal with are race-based discrimination from the military that they experience, and they may not feel as comfortable opening up about some of those issues. And I know I'm one more African-American provider that they can talk to at our VA.
Amazing, Tony. Can I jump in, y'all, real quick on this? Woo, okay, so I have 2 examples. I'll try to make it quick, but I have 2 examples. One is as a professional and the other is as a clinician. I have experienced microaggressions in the aspect that I know for a fact that I was expected to do something more than my white counterpart. And so, or I might have been, what's the word? I just know. Well, let's just say I know that it was expected of me. And I know we learn about it at school, right? And then when you get into the field, it's like, whoa, this is a real thing. So that's one example. And as a clinician, I'm in I guess it's considered rural area. We have a city, nearby city in Chattanooga, but I think this is considered rural. I have a client who has expressed to be racist, right? So what do you do with that? Do you know what I mean? So, and I don't have a Black supervisor like our friend Tony here. So I have to, and this is why it's good to have mentors. I reach out to my mentor who's Black, and other Black social workers, and try to figure out how to handle that, because I kind of feel like, you know, sometimes in situations like this, that you can be on an island. And I'm also the only Black clinician. So.
I will speak just a little bit about the microaggressions I've experienced, because I did say I would mention it whenever I was talking about my name. So my name is Grayson. Dulaney is my last name. Apparently people really expect Grayson to be a white man. To me, Grayson is me, because I've always been Grayson. So that is my frame of reference for Grayson. But that is apparently not the majority of folks' recognition of the name Grayson. Probably once a week, if not more, I have someone, if I'm taking money to the bank, or I'm, you know, emailing someone about a call or about a resource, et cetera, I'll have people say, "You're Grayson? Is this your first name? Like, are you sure?" I'm pretty sure I know my name. I mean, the first time that I went to court with one of the attorneys as the program director, and mind you, this was during COVID. However, we all know what it is already. So they were kind of limiting how many people were coming into the court, et cetera. However, there are many folks walking in and out of the courtroom. So I walk in, and I'm with the attorney, mind you. She was like, you know, let me walk you in at first, just in case. And like the judges, the bailiffs, the prosecutors, everybody is like, whoa, who is this girl? What is she doing in here? Like, how'd she get in here? And it wasn't necessarily any explicit things they were saying, but it was like the look of like, you do not belong in here. And of course, they're like, who is this? What is she doing in here? Where did she come from? Et cetera. But it was like that look that went along with those questions, where it very much so felt like a microaggression. So those would be my kind of two-ish examples.
Since we're talking about names, well, I feel like my name is Esperance Daizee. And all of my life, people have struggled with my name, of course. So it's nothing like super new to me. However, it's just in a professional role, you would think that people would, you know, at least try, but of course not. And so, right, Adriana, of course not. So it's just something that I've had to just, you know what, like if somebody asks me, how do you pronounce your name? I'm more than willing to tell you. And of course, I know everybody's not gonna get it right the first time or the second, and that's okay. And so, like for my kids, they call me Miss N, with just the letter N. That's it. And I've realized at this age, it's more frustrating for me to continue to tell somebody how to pronounce my name if you're going to continue to mess it up. And so, just call me Miss N. But I feel like people will still like look at me and just like, ooh, where is she from? Where, you know, like they'll just have looks without really saying too much. And so that's just always been interesting, and that's something that I still have to continue to work through, even though I tell everybody my name. And then another one. So I like to change my hair up a lot. And so I like to wear my wigs. I like to wear my braids. And I feel like every single time I go to work and I have a new hairstyle, people forget who I am. And I had to constantly remind people. I'm like, hey, I'm the social worker. And they'll like continue to introduce themselves to me. I'm like, I know who you are. And so I feel like that's been the biggest thing, because of course, a white woman will come up to me like, oh, how long did it take to do this? And I'm like, of course, that's like, I would answer. It took 8 hours. But it's just I feel like they forget who I am every single time I have a new hairstyle. And so that can be kind of infuriating. But yeah, that's my experience.
That has to be exhausting. It is
Very much so.
exhausting.
But I'll continue to change up my hair. It's okay.
Yes, please do.
Yes,
Please
you will.
I do the same. Every 2-3 weeks, I'm changing my hair. And I've had my same coworkers tell me, like, I didn't even recognize you. Like, it's
Pay attention.
It's hard, for sure.
Yes. So given all of that, it's exhausting, it's frustrating, it is what it is, sadly. How are you taking care of yourselves? How are you practicing self-care in this profession, with dealing with microaggressions and the trash of the world and people being ridiculous and racist clients and racist coworkers? Or how are you practicing self-care?
I can start with this one. I make it a part of my daily life. Okay. I make it a part of my weekend life. Like it's so important. I'm passionate about self-care, y'all, because the reason why is because I kind of lost it a little bit, my self-care routine. When I say it, that's what I mean. I did, and I delved into my new role as a therapist, and I was just like, clients, they matter more than me. And no, taking care of yourself is caring for your clients. So, and it can be, it can be as small as spending extra time in the shower. It can be adding lavender to your bath. I just make my life self-care, and that's how we care for our clients.
I go on a lot of walks during in between sessions. So I do trauma focused therapy for PTSD. And so I'm pretty much sitting in trauma all day. A lot of what I hear is military sexual trauma, assault, rape, and combat trauma. And so I'm sitting in it all day long, and you can get really, kind of sucked into that, and, emotionally. So I get up and I'll go and walk the campus. Sometimes my coworkers will pass by and be like, we're going on a walk and you're coming with us. And I make sure I'm leaving work on time when it's time for me to go. That's the hardest part, especially when you have, documentation that you don't want to leave, because I know that feeling of just having documentation that you have to do is just a hard feeling. And so I try to leave on time. I try to do my self-care in between sessions at work. And then I just do the things that I enjoy most. And I process my emotions with some of my coworkers or people that I feel comfortable, especially if I just got out of a really tough session. I feel maybe I'm going into another session and just trying to get myself together or just process those things. But outside of work, I do take breaks, I've seen a meme about millennials in our generation, like we will take our leave and we will take a vacation. And I am really big on that because I earned all this, I earned leave. So, and if I don't take it, it's not going to roll over into the next year, whatever that. So I take my time and I try not to feel bad about it. And for those who've done therapy, it's even hard because I meet weekly with my veterans for therapy. And if I miss a week, sometimes I do feel bad about that, but I've gotten in the habit of like owning that and saying, yeah, I might feel bad, but I'm still a person too. And I have my own, I still have my own life and my own care.
Yes, I would definitely echo what Tony said. I definitely make sure to take my lunch every single day. I don't care about none of that. I take my lunch. I leave, whether that's getting in the car and just eating my lunch in the car, or I'll go to McDonald's and get my food there. But I definitely take my lunch because it's just needed, or else like by the end of the workday, I'm drained. Like I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. And so I've realized for my sanity, it's needed. And just setting those boundaries with people. Once I'm off the clock, I'm off the clock. Don't call me because we're not doing that. And so I've been fortunate enough to have this school social work position. And so I'm off during the summers, which I absolutely love. And so I've been trying to live my very best life this summer. And that's great because I feel like I can go back to work and, be ready and be prepared. And so, yeah, that's how I do self-care.
I'm going to kind of echo what everyone else has said. And for me, my self-care has really come from learned experience. I feel like I burnt out my June, or I guess that was my senior year, like spring semester. I don't know if anyone else who's on here did undergrad at UT in College of Social Work, but you have portfolio, you have internship, you have capstone, you have just life. And I burnt out. It was like a Sunday morning, and I woke up and I just could not stop crying. And I would think about doing homework or doing something for school, and I would just immediately start crying. And I had to really get real and ask myself, like, okay, something is not working. So what do we need to do to adjust, to move a little differently? Because what we're doing now is not going to work. So I will say that's when I got very, very real with myself about making time for self-care. Part of my self-care, I think, is making sure that I am nourishing my soul. So spirituality is very important to me. My faith is very important to me. And so reading something that is going to be spiritually nourishing for me, or learning about something. So watching a video that's going to be spiritually nourishing for me, or reading books by people who have been through similar things, or who have similar frameworks or points of view. So reading Bell Hooks, reading All About Love by Bell Hooks, that was like life-changing for me. I started trying to read one new book a month instead of scrolling on my phone during grad school whenever I'd get out of class. That was really helpful for me, and I have actually kept up that habit, I guess, almost 2 years later. So crazy. Wow. Can't believe it's been 3 years since I was in grad school. Wow. So I think those things. And then I also practice meditation, and I make time for meditation every single weekday morning. It is really important for me and my self-care to really center myself and it feels like I'm kind of protecting my inner space before I go out into the world. We are all taking in so many different things each day. And then, as we know, when we are in this social work world too, it can feel like they're not just our clients or our communities or our systems pulling at us, but also the people who we love may kind of pull at us sometimes, like, well, you're the social worker. Can you help me out with this? Or can you help me out with that? And so finding ways to set boundaries in all of my life structures, whether that is work or loved ones, or even just boundarying myself around my self-care and not boxing myself into very specific, stringent self-care routines, and being fluid with my self-care. So realizing that some days taking a bubble bath is great. Other days I need to go take a 30-45-minute walk and listen to my favorite podcast. Some days I need to listen to a sound bath and stretch out in my floor for 20 minutes. Other days, I may have to go down to the jail and meet with a client, and then have to do supervision with my interns in the next 2 hours. And I may just take a few minutes and do the little breathing app on my watch before I have to interact with the next person. So intentionality, finding those small moments. If we have more than those small moments, take that time. But I actually want to rephrase that language, not take that time, but invest that time into ourselves and our self-care. Alex L is a self-care enthusiast, influencer, however you would want to. She's way more than that. She's on Instagram, and she talks about self-care as community care. And that is something that has been really useful for me. So sometimes I think maybe instead of thinking about self-care as something selfish or something that we don't have time for or whatever the case may be, thinking about self-care is like, okay, the more I take care of myself, the more authentically I can show up for my community, the more authentically I can show up for the people around me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That I'm planning my next vacation right now. As soon as I jump off this call, I'm booking the flight. I'm going, masked up and everything. Thank y'all. I think, Grayson, just to hear you talking about kind of that, hitting that place where you knew you had to get it together. That is real. And I think the pandemic has really caused me to get out of routine and also beautifully get into a routine of caring for myself. So walking every morning or eating right or taking a nap in the middle of the day. Esperance, taking that lunch, taking the lunch is important. I take my lunch every day. Every day. I need that. I need it. It's good. That's good. That's good. Are y'all still taking notes? Please be taking notes. This is good. This is good. Okay. This is a question for, let me just read it. How can seasoned social workers better help the younger generation address any obstacles as they enter the social work profession?
Please help us. Share information. I've made it a point to share information about the fellowship every year because I found that, it's really difficult to get in the VA system, and a lot of people want to work for the VA, whether it's for personal reasons, whether it's for financial reasons. However, it's really, really difficult. And so I had an experience where I shared the fellowship information to I think a Black Girls in Social Work Facebook group that I'm a part of. One of the girls reached out to me with a bunch of questions. She ended up applying. She interviewed. I did not even know she was one of the girls who reached out. I didn't make the connection until after. She really kept it, when she came for her interview, she kept it confidential. Like, she didn't say, hey, I'm so-and-so from the Facebook group. She interviewed, she got it. It wasn't until she got it till she messaged me back on Facebook and was like, I got it, that was me. And she did her year, and now she just actually was hired on full time at the VA. And so it really, warms my heart to be able to continue to share this information, continue to help people. And I think just that emotional support, because sometimes it can feel like, what am I going to do next? What's next for me? And so really just having that mentorship, that emotional support and sharing of information. I think sometimes we get so caught up into what we're doing that we forget there are people coming after us. And I think everybody that's coming after us is just as important of those who are here now, because we're going to be growing the profession. And so the more information we can share, the better we can build our profession. And, it's kind of one of those things, let's work together and not against one another, because sometimes it can feel like a competition, right? To get the next spot, to get the next position. We have to move away from that approach and really work towards more so helping one another and building that together, because it can be a we and not a I. And I try to live by that because there are people who paved the way for me. And I know that if it wasn't for my field instructor at Memphis VA, who literally had this opportunity come to her personal email, not to my email, my little intern email, but she had to come to her personal email, and she not shared that information with me on that one day and pushed me to apply and pushed me to travel around the world to interview, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so I thank her, for that continuously, but I tried to pay it forward by doing the same.
I would definitely agree with Tony. Just be there for us. I'm grateful enough to have had one of the best social workers to mentor me. And I met her as an undergrad. Cassandra, she's on here now. Miss Hathaway. I absolutely like adore her, but she was there for me every single step of the way. She provided me with so much knowledge, so much like just confidence that I didn't have myself. She like instilled that in me for me to know that like, yes, you can do this. Yes, you have this background. Yes, you've been there, but guess what? You're still good enough to be there, you know? And she held me to that. And so I'm just grateful for her. And so I feel like that's what we need in our community, just continuing for us to continue to like just uplift each other, just be there for each other, speak life to in one another. And so yeah, I'm just grateful for her and all the other mentors and social workers who are doing that for other people. So yeah, that's it.
Yes. Okay, so I would say making yourself available. We understand that we are all busy, right? So as social workers and social work students. So even if you can't get right back to your mentee right away, just, connect. I have people reach out to me sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm in this mentorship position now. And I'm not able to respond right away, but I do try to circle back and connect. So yeah, just making yourself available at the best of your ability. And I saw Professor Veit's question of what she can do to create a better space to us in regards to all that we have experienced and reinforced the themes. Definitely the microaggressions that we mentioned in the workplace, I think is a great place to start. And I misspoke earlier. I think Dr. Hall talked with me about this as a master's student on our study abroad experience. So that's where I think I got that from. She talked with me about microaggressions, and I'm so thankful to her about that.
I think for professors, I think the support is really big. I think I had professors that really believed in me at Mississippi State, but they were really hard on me in a way that sometimes it almost made me like kind of feel down, like Mississippi State social work program was not one to play around with because some of the professors were really tough, and I know it's coming from passion. And I think some people get caught up in tough love. It's like sometimes we need that love too. I have Professor Bay, I have pictures of us from the trip. You're in my phone taking selfies, but you guys really welcomed me. And, it just felt so good to be around you all and to be able to connect after seeing everybody over the video, because I was an online student. So most of my classes were online, but being able to see y'all and feel y'all and get that love and connection. I struggled a little bit, wondering, because social workers are passionate. And so I had specific professors at my old school who they were so passionate. Sometimes I think I was crying. They had me crying sometimes, just thinking, am I built for this? And so I think just that encouragement, that uplifting. So I think that's a huge one.
I will say as well, kind of just on the seasoned social worker piece, I think it's really important. I'm going to echo what everyone has said basically, and just say that we got to open up that space for us to really be communicating with one another and processing all of the things that we are experiencing. I always think back to when Carmen had first come to Knoxville's campus, and me and another student, I think we were like the only 2 Black students in our program. Maybe there was one more. I think we were only 2 though. And we had somehow never talked to each other about the things we're experiencing until that moment. And we were like, how does this even happen? And then full circle, I'm in a field instructor position. So I'm not a seasoned social worker by any means, but a little bit more seasoned than my summer junior field interns, who both happen to be Black women as well. And when we're sitting there talking, both of them have said to me and then to each other, wow, how have we never talked about these things before? We're in the same cohort. And maybe, it was COVID and online classes, but then when we're all talking together and we're just talking about different experiences we've had, one of them literally said to me, "Thank you so much for saying these things. I have never talked to another Black social worker about this before, and I thought I was actually crazy." And I know we don't use the word crazy, so I'm not using the word crazy, but just quoting. And I could not believe it. I mean, I could, but I couldn't, because it's unsurprising, yet it is very surprising. And so just opening up space for us to talk and to process intergenerationally, I think is so important. I think we can, kind of like everyone has said already, we can get kind of boxed in, we can get kind of siloed just doing the work we're doing, getting so busy, doing all the things that we may have on our plates, but just making sure that we are opening that space for intergenerational communication and upliftment and empowerment.
Thank y'all. Thank you so much. I want to be mindful of our time. We have about 5 minutes left. So what I want you to tell me, I do this with my young people, is tell me one word that you would share with the next generation of social workers, and one word that is giving you life right now. Just one word. It's hard.
Okay, I'm ready. Faith.
Grace.
Breathe.
I would say willingness.
I didn't think of a word, so I'm not going. I think my one word is intentionality. For sure. Come on, is that Dr. Kim Page? Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you all for your wisdom, your vulnerability, your stories. I am so proud of each and every single one of you for the work that you are doing for our profession, so young in our profession. I'm inspired. I think I got some work to do, and y'all are really setting up a beautiful foundation that you are also standing on, a foundation that the social workers before us have laid. And I thank you so much for laying that path. Thank you all for joining us for our young professional social worker panel. If you have questions, if you have more questions, I think Carmen will provide the emails of these beautiful young women. She will also provide the recording of this. She'll send it out after we are done. But I thank you. Go forth and prosper. Keep being proud, keep being strong, keep pursuing excellence, Black excellence. Keep just being exactly who you are, and don't let anybody, not even yourself, tell you differently. Okay, keep betting on yourself, because I know I'm learning to bet on myself. So I appreciate y'all. I hope you all have a good night. Carmen, do you have any last words?
I'm just so proud of each of you. And it's so beautiful to see how you've grown as students and now as professionals, Adriana included in that. And we have a lot of hope. You give us a lot of hope. Those of us who've been doing this for a little while, you give us hope. And so keep going, keep pounding, but rest, but also rest, and also protect your space and your peace and set your boundaries. So So very proud of each of you. For everybody on the call, an evaluation, it's like 3 questions will go out either late tonight or early tomorrow morning. And then our CBSW intern will send you your certificate for contact hours. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you at the next go round. Okay, thank you so much. Good night.
Hey, Mom. My mom was on the call.
Oh, hi, Adriana's mom.
Where is she? Where's your mom?
Where's my mom?
Where's your mom?
Oh, she's right there.
Where?
Janella. She's right at the bottom.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Tony.
Adriana's mommy. Oh, I can stop recording.
It took me